pointer? Hello, I'm Dr. John Kelly. I'm board certified in preventive medicine and in lifestyle medicine. I want to be talking to you about the science for why and how hyperthermal therapy is so effective in treating COVID-19. So we're going to be talking about the physiologic effects of hydrothermal therapy on virus-infected patients. And in particular, of course, right now, that's relevant to SARS-CoV-2. And then if we have the chance, we're going to have time, we'll look at some of the simple but effective hyperthermal treatments that can improve COVID-19 and other infections. So let's get right to it. I'm using scientific papers, so I like to establish what I'm saying from the literature and not just me telling you this. So we're going to look at this evidence that shows that a strong innate immune response appears to be the key, the difference between those who have mild symptoms versus those who have severe symptoms of COVID-19. And we have learned that the reason for this is that the SARS-CoV-2 virus is capable of making the innate immune system weak or less effective. And then there is an overreaction when the immune system responds too strongly and produces an inflammatory flare. So you can see on the slides these dot points. The reason I have the citations is those who want to get the slides and check into this information yourself. So here's one of the key articles just recently published in Pulmonology, looking at the immune response to SARS-CoV-2 COVID-19 immunopathology. And here, I just want to blow up so you can see the abstract. And it says the rapid clinical course seen in COVID-19 indicates that infection control in asymptomatic patients or patients with mild disease is probably due to the innate immune response, as considering that SARS-CoV-2 is new to humans, an effective adaptive response would not be expected to occur until approximately 2 to 3 weeks after contact with the virus. Goes on to say that antiviral innate immunity has two parts. It has the humoral part and the cellular. And I'm sorry that this is blocking our ability to see the slide, but it goes on to explain that the two parts include cytokines and chemicals produced by your immune system that enable the immune system to attack the virus. And I will talk about those in more detail here in just a minute. And then the cellular components. And what happens is if this system fails, then this would lead to, as I mentioned, the uncontrolled replication of the virus and the inflammatory cascade because of the dysregulated immune and inflammatory response. So here's the two things. The clinical course indicates infection control in asymptomatic patients, as it said, was due to innate immune response. And so on the right-hand side, you'll see that the logic for that, the rationale that's so conclusive, is that the adaptive response cannot occur within the first week or 10 days. It's going to take longer. And so those of us who've had COVID and had a mild or a non-severe case, this was because our innate immune system, not the cell-specific. Then the second point on the left, the antiviral innate immunity has humoral components, and you can see here complement and coagulation fibrinolysis systems, various things that, including interferons that are part of the humoral. It also has cellular components that we don't often think of, and this is natural killer cells and other lymphocytes that actually are not cell-specific. They are more of the innate general system. All right, I want to call your attention to a second article here from the World Allergy Organizational Journal, Enhancing Innate Immunity Against Virus in Times of COVID-19, Trying to Untangle Facts from Fictions. This was an excellent article. It's quite comprehensive. I can certainly recommend it to you if you want to learn more about, as it says, untangling facts from fictions. This is a figure from that article. It looks pretty complicated, but I just want to point out, all we really want to look at is here, the innate immune response occurs early in the immune system's response to an antigen, to an outside enemy. And so it's when the disease goes into second, third, fourth week, this is when you can see then that the adaptive immune response takes place. But I'm focusing on the innate immunity because the good news is that hydrothermal therapy strengthens the very part of the innate immune system that is attacked by the virus. Let's see here. Get the next slide. So here's another figure from that same article, and I want to blow up what it says on here about this figure 1. Unlike the normal antiviral response with increased interferon type 1 and 3, and with it the activation of genes stimulated by interferon in adjacent cells, and thereby increasing its antiviral defense, the coronavirus has mechanisms that lower this antiviral innate defense mechanism by interfering with interferon production and its effects. In addition, chemotactic molecules are released in a viral infection that attract macrophages, natural killer cells, and neutrophils. This reaction is not fully achieved during early infection with coronavirus. So the initial innate immune response appears incomplete and slow. After this first innate response, adaptive immunity is triggered via activation of the dendritic cells. So let's take a look here at how hyperthermal therapy works. Again, the citations of articles there that you can check this out for yourself. There's two parts I'm going to talk about, is how they work to strengthen the innate immunity, specifically that helps to clear the virus and produce a less severe disease state. And then we're going to look at the experience with the Spanish flu real quickly. So here's a current copy of the cover of this German magazine, journal. I wasn't able to get a copy of the one I'm citing because the digital copies start in 2003, and this paper I'm citing is from 2002. But here's what they did. The researchers had realized that the thermal effect of water seems to be a conserved acute phase response, and it's associated with better survival and shorter duration of COVID. And so they did a study looking at this. To determine the effect of hyperthermia on the human monocytes, they took 12 healthy volunteers and they immersed them in a 39.5 Celsius or 103, basically 103 Fahrenheit, hot water bath to increase their body temperature. We would call this hydrotherapy or hyperthermal therapy. And so what they measured were the expression of the various components in the immune system that are known to be helpful to the innate immune function. I'm sort of translating this scientific wording here. So what we found was that the changes that occurred were favorable to the innate immune system, and they saw similar results when they did this in vitro, okay? In other words, in the laboratory instead of in human beings. So after 3 hours after the in vivo, or the actual experiment with the subjects in the bath, the response of the monocytes to an endotoxin, this is something that we would expect to produce an immune response, was enhanced. And it was a significant, statistically significant change or improvement, as well as being clinically significant. And so the researchers conclude that the thermal effect of fever directly activates the monocytes, which are part of the innate immune system, and increases their ability to respond to bacteria. Similar, and I add the note that similar effects are seen with viral pathogens. This does not only work for bacterial infections, but for viral infections as well. And so here the paper mentions that during the 1918 flu pandemic, hydrotherapy with hot wrappings on the chest and abdomen soaked in boiling water 3 times a day with the patient wrapped in a blanket resulted in a 300% increased survival rate for subjects with the Spanish flu. And so the second thing here real quickly is to look at some of the simple, so what are we talking about? How can we do this for our own selves? And I just want to mention 4 things here: the Russian steam bath, chest fomentations, contrast shower, and prolonged hot foot bath. And they're going to be presenting these to you in detail later. I'm just going to mention them for you. So you can see here a Russian steam cabinet. And on the left is quite an interesting cabinet with a person in there. And then in the middle is the modern fiberglass Russian steam cabinet and on the right there's a subject in the cabinet. This can be a very vigorous treatment. It can be so effective to be harmful. That's why you have to have some training and know what you're doing with a Russian steam bath. Here's some home style. You don't actually have to have a cabinet, thank goodness. You can use pretty much anything that's at hand. I have often done this treatment with a chair, with an electric frying pan underneath it with water, and put a cloth, usually you put a sheet and then something like a shower curtain. Here's chest fomentations. On the left is back during the Spanish flu time, and on the right is one of the centers doing hydrotherapy now. Then contrast showers. You know, this seems so simple, but I want to tell you that it is a viable and important treatment. I remember when I was studying with Dr. Charles Thomas a number of years ago in California, and he had some remarkable books. I'm a little bit of a book nerd when it comes to medicine and physiology, and I remember reading the studies that had been done, and the circulating white blood cell count could be 3 to 4 times what it was before the contrast shower, and that effect could be seen for over 24 hours. So don't underestimate the power of contrast showers. They'll teach you more about that. So thank you for your time and attention.